AITAH because when my brother and his husband adopted a baby I asked if they got a dog or a cat. Throwaway because it's embarrassing. My brother and his husband recently adopted their son. It was kind of sudden, baby dropped at the fire station sort of situation. I had known they were in the process of adopting, but as far as I knew they were kind of early on. I don't know anything about the process, so I guess I thought a pregnant woman looked through stacks of applicants, picked some family, met with them, and they went to the hospital to get the baby when it was born. Basically I thought there would be a lot of lead up to them becoming dads and I would have a heads up. So my bro had called me last week and said, "Congrats, you're an uncle. You have a little nephew." And reflexively I just said, "Oh nice, did you get a dog or a cat?" My bro was silent for a bit and I was thinking that's not a hard question? And he finally says, "A human baby, we adopted a baby boy." And I was like, shit sorry, that was fast. My mom was absolutely horrified at this story and I've been deemed the biggest family asshole this year over it. My brother doesn't seem mad, his husband seems to be very annoyed with me. No one understands why I would ask that, so I mean, IDK, am I an asshole here? I'm not neurotypical, so it's hard for me to know if maybe they're teasing me and not actually that mad. However, if this situation needs a real sit-down kind of apology for me being a major asshole, then I want to do that. And #X200B. Update. Whoa, this blew up overnight. I talked to my brother and brother-in-law this morning and I told them like what I said here and I apologized. They said they are not mad at all and they thought it was funny. They said if they seemed upset it could be because a lot changed suddenly for them. So I think I could have misunderstood them being busy and tired for being annoyed. I asked what about the pause on the phone, because to me if someone takes longer than about 1 to 2 seconds to begin speaking after I speak, and especially if I count over 5 seconds, then probably that is confusion or surprise I believe. My brother said he wasn't sure if I was attempting a joke and he should laugh or if I was confused. That's what he was thinking in the pause. The family likes to tease me because when I learned about sarcasm in first grade one then tried it out and told my dad I had a terrible day at school when he asked, trying to be sarcastic, but my inflection was wrong so he thought I was serious. My brother was trying to figure out if that kind of thing was happening again. But, as it turns out, actually no one in the family is mad at me. They apparently are all poking fun and I couldn't tell. My mom's reaction was apparently not horror in an angry way but in a funny disbelief kind of way. I feel a lot better about it now. No assholes here ain't going lie. I laughed pretty hard. I mean, nah? There's different avenues for adoption, so I can understand your confusion. Send the happy couple a nice gift. You can always make it a joke with the kid later on, depending on his sense of humor, of course. And congrats on your new nephew. Nah, I'd have probably said the same. It might be worth sitting down with them and letting them know you're happy and excited for them but was a bit shocked at the sudden news. Congrats to your brother and partner. I'm sure they'll be far too busy with the baby to worry much about your reaction. No assholes here lol. Your family is pretty drama-free if this is the biggest F-up of the year. If I were you, I would just apologize anyway to keep the peace. It was an honest mistake. I'm almost 30 and I still get surprised when friends announce pregnancies. Am I the asshole for making my parents choose between me and my former friend? I was best friends with Jen from preschool through 9th grade. Her home life was pretty rough and she practically lived at my house. My parents called her the daughter they never had. When we were in 9th grade, I asked her out. It took some convincing but she eventually said yes. She broke up with me over text the day after our date. She barely went to school, didn't text, and wasn't at my house at all the next few weeks. She eventually showed up at my house in the middle of the night. My parents took her in no questions asked, then she left in the middle of the night a few weeks later. I admit I didn't love having her around and didn't make it easy on her, but her leaving was hard on everybody. My parents had to go to therapy. Last year I moved out for college but I was still planning on coming to visit. A few months after I moved out, Jen showed up at my parents' house pregnant and with a baby. They took her in again then called me and my brothers asking how we feel about her staying with them. My brothers were okay with it but I can't forgive her for what she did a few years ago. My parents let her stay anyways but said they had conditions on her staying with them like her going to therapy and either enrolling in college or getting a job. I told them I still wasn't okay with it. We argued a bit and I told them I wouldn't visit if she was living there. She's still there and I held true to my word and I haven't visited since. They're trying to get me to come for Christmas, but I won't be there if Jen is living there. They're calling me petty and saying I need to forgive her, but I think I have a right to be upset. So, at 15 you were told, no, and then after bullying her, which you refer to as, it took some convincing, she, eventually said yes. You had one single date, which you harassed her into agreeing to. Then you refer to her not wanting a second date. She also didn't want a first date either, by the way, as breaking up with you. She then spent weeks avoiding you, which you still didn't pick up on. You don't say how old you are now, but it's clear you still resent her for not wanting to date you. You are the asshole. Yes, you're the asshole. You can't forgive her for what? Not wanting to date you? No one ever needs to apologize for not wanting to date someone. And you only went on one date, after some convincing. She doesn't owe you anything. Your parents are trying to help her get her life turned around and you're snubbing her because of a bruised ego. Time to let this go and be a bigger person. Am I the asshole for telling my brother's new fiancée she isn't my kid's aunt? I am 31, and my wife, F30, and I have 2 kids, M5 the other F2. I also have 2 siblings, an older brother, M35, and a younger, M29. Me and my older brother both have kids. My younger has none, and has bounced from fling to fling. However, in 2020 before the pandemic hit he met this girl, F23. We'll call her Amber. Fake name. From day one he was obsessed with her. They started dating and when we thought we'd only meet her once then never again, she stayed coming round. We were all happy to see my brother get serious about someone, even if they were a bit younger than him. However, as Amber started spending more time around our family, collectively we all noticed certain things she did we didn't like. For just a couple of examples. She would move something in whoever's house we were in, and say, "This looks better like this, so I moved it for you." Or she would get into people's stuff and say, "We're family now so we can share." Such as when she used my Sil lotions and makeup without asking. But this was the thing that made us all dislike her. She would constantly talk proudly about how she turned my quote, spineless fuckboy baby brother into a man. Okay, unnecessary, but he was a player before so I get the joke. But then she added, "I'll do what your mom couldn't and teach him to be a gentleman." And yes, she really has said that on more than one occasion. We've all mentioned these things to my brother but he brushes it off or says, "I love her dude, what can I do?" And welp, he proposed to her at the beginning of 2022. And no, she hasn't changed her antics since 2020. Anyway, Amber came over with my brother for my wife's birthday party. Of course my kids were there too. Amber, I'm front of a house full of mine and my wife's family. She says, "Oh, it's my favorite niece and nephew." Before picking up my daughter. She added, "Am I your favorite auntie?" in a baby voice, as if she was saying it to my daughter. I walked over and took my daughter out of her hands and said in a calm but stern tone, "You're not their aunt. So please don't refer to yourself as their aunt." She seemed taken back and immediately got defensive saying, "I'm marrying your brother so I will be their aunt by marriage." I just shrugged and calmly responded that I didn't care if they got married. She could be Mrs. Amber or Amber but she was not their aunt. A few people heard and pretended not to. But Amber was upset and left and my brother came in asking what happened. After I told him he said I was an ass and took off after Amber. My brother called me that night saying I needed to apologize and take back what I said, but I refused to. My kids hardly know, spend time with her, and she's not very well liked amongst our family. So am I the asshole? You are the asshole. You can dislike her and keep her away from your kids all you want, but she will in fact be their aunt. Everyone sucks here. I think you all suck. The way you handle it was inappropriate. She will be your family by marriage, therefore she will be their aunt by marriage. Also Amber sucks. She needs to know what her place is. The statement she made about your mother and brother is a big no-go. But you talked to your brother, not to Amber. I'm not saying it would have changed anything, but perhaps it would have. Not the asshole. You don't have to consider her family. Sometimes even blood doesn't mean much. It's really Urkel. Am I the asshole for refusing to address someone by their chosen form of address? I have been with a company for 6 years now. We are very informal with each other and have a fairly laid-back culture. The company president is Dave. My boss is Lou. I tell employees who call me Mr. Smith, fake name, that my name is Dennis and that there is no need for formality. We recently hired a new employee. The fake name I will give her for this post is Ginny Potter. In coming on board with us, Ginny signed all of her emails Ms. Potter. When she answers the phone it's, "Good afternoon, this is Ms. Potter speaking." When she calls me, it's, "Good morning, Dennis, this is Ms. Potter." And my response is always, "Good morning, Ginny, how can I help you?" If I send an email to Ginny, the response is signed by Ms. Potter. Emphasis hers. She is 3 levels below me in a different line of report in terms of company hierarchy. So her supervisor's boss reports to someone on the same level as me, if that makes sense. It got back to me that she thinks I'm disrespectful for not calling her Ms. Potter when I speak to her. When I spoke to others about it, most state that they just ignore it. Don't use a name to address her, respond to her queries, and let her call herself what she wants. My boss thinks it's idiotic and that she's not at any level within the company to demand that. When I told my wife, she replied that it's obviously a button for this woman and I'm being an asshole by antagonizing her. My counterpoint to this is that nobody in the company gets addressed formally, and if I don't call my boss or his boss by anything but their first names, I'm not going to formally address another employee several layers down the hierarchy. "You are the asshole." She's being very polite about how she wants to be addressed and you're taking a crap all over it. She wants to be Ms. Call her Ms. Your position doesn't excuse this behavior, in fact it makes it worse. Look, unless she's asking you to address her as something truly awful and unreasonable. Like Hitler for example, just use her preferred name. And #X200B. She is not below you, you are not above her, you're both human beings. And #X200B. You are the asshole. YTA. It's about boundaries, not hierarchy. Maybe she likes to keep it formal so she can draw a line between private affairs and work-related stuff, or she simply isn't comfortable being called by her first name. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Don't you have more important things to tend to other than gossiping about coworkers and be a blabbermouth? Honestly, you sound exhausting to be around.